أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
Surah 91, Al-Shams, the Sun, Meccan period. Title: The opening word, Al-Shams, the Sun, constitutes the title of this surah. Period of revelation. Going by its style and contents, it appears to be an early Meccan surah. It was revealed during the peak period of the Meccans' opposition to the Prophet, peace be upon him. Subject matter and theme. This surah has two broad themes. 1. The first theme is introduced in verses 1 to 10. 2. The second theme permeates verses 11 to 15. As part of the first theme, 3 truths are stressed. As the sun and the moon, day and night, and the earth and sky represent polarities and have opposing features, good and evil are not alike. The two also differ vastly in their impact and consequences. Allah does not let man lead an unbridled life, for He has granted him so many faculties. Rather, He has infused into him the instinctive distinction between good and evil and an innate love of good and revulsion towards evil. Man's ultimate end depends upon him exercising his faculty of judgment between good and evil. It is up to man to opt for either good or evil. For his choice of the former, he will attain deliverance, but in choosing the latter, he will end up as a loser. As to the second theme, it cites the historical precedent of the Thamud people in order to bring home the significance of the institution of messengership. A messenger is sent down to invigorate man's innate moral sense. As man fails to be guided by it, he falls prey to false notions of good and evil. To reinforce man's innate moral sense, Allah transmit to messengers clear, definite revelation, which enables messengers to instruct people clearly in good and evil. An instance in point is the Prophet Saleh, peace be upon him, who was sent down to the Thamud. They were so much given to falsehood that they cried lies to the Prophet Saleh, peace be upon him. When they were given the miracle of the she-camel, which they themselves had demanded, the most wicked members of the Thamud hamstrung her, notwithstanding the Prophet's dire warnings against this outrageous act. As a result, the whole Thamud community was rooted. It is not said anywhere in the surah that the Meccans will meet the same fate that befell the Thamud for the crime of rejecting the messenger. However, similar conditions were evident in Mecca. The Meccans could therefore easily discern how this precedent applied to them.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim.
In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate.
وَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا.
By the sun and its heat and brightness.
وَالْقَمَرِ إِذَا تَلَاهَا.
And by the moon as it follows it.
وَالنَّهَارِ إِذَا جَلَّاهَا.
And by the day as it displays the sun's glory.
وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَاهَا.
And by the night as it envelops the sun.
وَالسَّمَاءِ وَمَا بَنَاهَا.
And by the sky, and by Him who made it.
وَالْأَرْضِ وَمَا طَحَاهَا.
And by the earth, and by Him who stretched it out.
وَنَفْسٍ وَمَا سَوَّاهَا.
And by the soul, and by Him who perfectly proportioned it. And by the soul, and by Him who perfectly proportioned it. That is, God has invested man's body and mind with special characteristics and has also equipped him with senses and other powers and abilities by means of which he can perform the task that is required of him.
فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا.
And imbued it with the consciousness of its evil and its piety. And imbued it with the consciousness of its evil and its piety. This has two meanings. First, that the Creator has embedded in man's nature tendencies and inclinations towards both good and evil. Second, that God has impregnated every person's subconscious with certain notions of good and evil, that good and evil deeds are intrinsically different and are not of equal worth, and while fujur, immorality, is condemnable, taqwa, avoidance of evil, is praiseworthy, etc. These ideas are not foreign to man. On the contrary, his nature is quite profoundly acquainted with them. This is because man's creator has endowed him with an innate capacity to distinguish between good and evil.
قد أفلح من زكاها
He who purifies it will prosper,
وقد خاب من دساها
and he who suppresses it will be ruined. And he who suppresses it will be ruined. To purify the self means to cleanse oneself of evil and to nurture good qualities in oneself instead. On the contrary, to suppress the self means to develop one's evil potentialities.
كذبت ثمود بطغواها
In their presumptuous insolence, the Thamud called the truth a lie.
إذ انبعث أشقاها
When their arch-criminal rose up in rage,
فقال لهم رسول الله ناقة الله وسقياها
then Allah's messenger warned them, hands off the she-camel and her drink.
فكذبوه فعقروها فدمدم عليهم ربهم بذنبهم فسواها
But they rejected his statement as a lie and hamstrung the she-camel. For that crime, their Lord rumbled down upon them, utterly razing them to the ground. For that crime, their Lord rumbled down upon them, utterly razing them to the ground. The wicked person hamstrung the she-camel not simply with the consent and approval of his people, but also at their behest. See Al-Qamar 54:29. The whole nation therefore invited God's wrath upon itself.
ولا يخاف عقباها
He has no fear of its sequel.